Hi, and welcome to RealClearFetish Talks RealClearPlay, a podcast that dives into sobriety, kink, and everything in between. This week, we are on the couch again for the second time this season, and we have Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, and you?
Good, thank you.
As with every episode I do 4 standard questions at the start, and then we'll just see where the conversation goes.
Okay, sounds good.
To start with, what do you prefer I call you? Names, pronouns, and title?
Chris is fine. Pronouns are he and him. Title is nothing specific. So Chris is fine.
We'll come into it. You might be looking to have a title.
Yes, maybe
we'll get into that.
Maybe looking at it, yes.
Yes. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Where to start? I am a almost 59-year-old prostate cancer survivor with 37 years sobriety from alcohol and drugs. Originally from northern Michigan, lived in Chicago for 25 years, although I never went to IML the entire 25 years I lived there.
Wow.
Yeah, shame on me.
Yeah.
Have lived in London for 14 years now.
Fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
And what made you move to London?
My partner at the time was offered a transfer with his company, and we came over. They needed a U.S. customs expert. He was in shipping and logistics, and we came over on a 3-year visa. 2 years later, Donald 1.0 came around. We decided to stay.
I wonder why.
Yeah. And have been here ever since.
Fabulous. Mm-hmm. Well, we're happy to have you here.
Thank you. I love being here.
And you've already kind of answered the question, but the third question, I always ask it, completely sober, clear-headed, or social drinker?
Completely sober, clear-headed.
It's always a question I ask because people's recovery are very individual, and it's good to ask the question also for the viewers and for the listeners to kind of get an idea who am I talking to.
Yes.
What is ClearPlay to you, and why is it important?
ClearPlay is important to me because you can have fun and you can play, and you don't need mind-altering chemicals, and it's almost more. Well, it is, for me, more real and more, it's a closer connection to whoever I'm playing with. I always say that anything, if someone that I'm playing with wants to use poppers, that's okay for them. Nothing for me at all. Anything stronger than poppers for them, complete deal break. It's important to me because I've been sober for so long. I just feel that the connection is greater when both of us or all of us are playing sober and completely clear-headed.
Yeah, it's when you're here and they're there.
Yes.
That's like kind of the thing.
Or out here, or
some different planet.
Yes.
Yeah. And that is important. Also, things about consent kind of goes out the window if someone's really drunk, or so it's really important.
Very, very important. Yes.
So you mentioned that you are 37 years sober, clear of drugs and alcohol. So you are, I would say, a different generation to like my drug taking. I'm of the chemsex generation. How has it been for you watching that kind of evolve? Has it affected you at all?
I don't think it's affected me a great deal. None of my friends here in the UK or even in Europe knew me when I was using. They all just understand that I don't drink and do drugs. And I've always been able to kind of stay away from that crowd, that scene at events. Darklands is a good example. The sort of hidden use that goes on. I said sort of hidden.
For people listening, I made a bit of almost an eye roll because it's not very hidden.
It's just, I never saw that at Darklands, but I don't know if you have to kind of go looking for it or be in certain areas, but I never saw it. And all of my friends and playmates here, I had a sir a while ago, and he said, no matter what happens, if there's any scene that you're uncomfortable with, completely feel free to just leave. I was playing a couple of months ago with a guy that used poppers, and we were in a small room, and it was an enclosed space, and it really, I had to stop because it really got to me because the window wasn't open, and yeah, it was triggering. So I knew when to say, okay, wait a minute, draw the line here.
I think boundaries and being able to say no is important,
Mm-hmm.
especially because poppers is a little bit of a gray zone.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yes.
depends on where you come at and what kind of your recovery is and so on. I would never tell someone who's become sober of crystal meth. I wouldn't shame them for using poppers. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't use poppers mainly because I fucking hate them. It gives
Yes.
me a headache.
Yes.
But I will also point out it's like I don't necessarily. It depends on why are you using them. What is your intention?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important.
And my theory behind that is, if you need, this is probably going to sound very judgmental, but if you need to use something to get into the mindset to play, are you really enjoying the play?
Yeah, I guess that's like I said, intention. There will be people who use poppers to relax,
Mm-hmm.
like to for anal sex and so on,
Right.
and that is a valid one to maybe use it for.
Mm-hmm.
I always kind of say if I play with someone who uses poppers, it's like as long as your nose is not stuck to them the whole time.
Yes.
There's nothing more on uncharming someone who comes out with a crusty nose when they come out of the dark room, which
Yes.
I have seen, and I probably also have been that person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a swings and roundabouts, but it's
Yes.
such a little bit of a gray area when it comes to poppers.
It is, yes.
As someone who's now been sober for so long, how has it been like seeing what's been happening on the scene when it comes to chemsex? Because we are almost calling it our version of an epidemic, like from
Yes.
like the HIV crisis.
Mm-hmm.
It's all of a sudden go over on the chems. How has that made you feel as a recovering addict?
I think for me it's a bit discouraging, because again it goes back to and this is completely my own view, but it goes back to, if you have to use something, then what are you really getting out of it? Now, as a caveat, when I was using, I never got into crystal meth. I mean, it was poppers, and I was abusing Valium and marijuana and alcohol primarily. So I have no idea what crystal meth does to someone. I have no idea what ecstasy does to someone, because I never took those. Because as a coming of age in the 80s in central and southern Michigan, it wasn't a huge, there wasn't a big club kid scene.
No, maybe not.
No, particularly in a town the size of Ann Arbor, Michigan, there wasn't a whole big club kid scene. There was your basic everyday drugs. So it's
the regular potheads,
the
kind
regular
of thing.
potheads, yeah. So seeing the prevalence of the use of chemicals is discouraging. But on the flip side of that, I see events like Darklands and now Folsom Berlin and IML offering 12-step meetings.
Mm.
Last year when I was at Darklands, last year 2024, there was one 12-step meeting. This year in 2025, the organization came back and said, we will give you 12 time slots for your meetings. And all of them were completely full, which was really encouraging to see, to kind of offset the increase in what I saw as the drug use.
Yeah, I was there in 2024
Mm.
for that meeting, and it was really heartwarming, and it
Yes.
was lovely. And the thing with Darklands, yes, it's minded in 12 step, but if you're curious, if you want to break from like the mayhem, it's a lovely little breathing space in what Darklands is, and it's a lot of impressions and stuff like that. And if you're questioning your use and so on, go to one of those meetings and listen to what people say.
Absolutely.
There.
Yeah.
You don't have to become a 12-stepper. That's fine. And
No.
everyone is welcome in those meetings, which is so good.
Yeah.
I definitely enjoyed it. And I didn't manage to go this year. I would have loved to gone.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that there was 12 meetings and they were full.
Yes.
That is so good.
Yeah.
And well, IML do 12-step meetings. They do twice a day.
Yeah.
I think. There's even an IML recovery group, which I'm a member of. And it's just, there's much more of a spotlight on it now.
Yes.
Which is encouraging.
Yes. A leather friend and I co-organized a sober brunch one morning at Darklands. And there were 28 or 30 that showed up for that, which was fantastic. It was really, really refreshing to see.
Well, that's almost how we met, because
Yes.
now we're going way back.
Way back.
When I started Real Clear Fetish, it was actually more a Facebook group with connections to doing sober socials, where we had this lovely cafe, Syrup of Sa.
Yes.
This is before COVID. And I met you there.
Yes.
And we've been friends ever since.
Ever since, yes.
And it's just like, this is like a full circle moment, and now we can sit down and have a chat, which is great. So for you, and now I'm just going to pat myself on the back, how did you find, like, oh, here's this guy who's arranging these sober socials? Because it's not really something that was done in Europe. How was your impression of what I was trying to do at the time?
It was incredibly refreshing, particularly seeing that you were trying to develop it within the fetish community, because there's always been the connotation of, I think particularly in the leather and in kind of the club kid scene, there's always been this connotation of drug use and alcohol use. Probably more alcohol in the leather scene, and drugs and stuff like that in the club kid scene. So for me, it was amazingly refreshing going, oh my God, okay, here's someone that is relatively new to sobriety, if I remember.
I was I was 1 year sober.
1 year, yes. Yeah. And I looked at that and I'm like, here's someone that realizes how important sobriety is to him, and how important it is to do the community service, and how the community service is going to become part of your recovery. And I think it's fantastic, and we need to start doing more socials.
Oh yeah, it's
in all of our spare time.
Oh, absolutely. Well, yeah, because of COVID, that kind of went away, and I still on occasion do like sober dinners. I did 2 very successful ones in Berlin, Folsom last year, which was amazing. I am planning on going to Folsom this year, I hope, and I'm planning on doing it again this year.
Okay.
I'm going to Manchester Leather Weekend, and I found a 2-hour space where I could put in a sober dinner if I wanted to. So I might do that as well.
Yeah.
So there's still things on the cards. And
excellent.
It's just not the same format. It's also about finding venues to do it in.
Yes.
Because Compton's did offer it at some point, but it's in a bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then again, since we did that, there's now several club nights now that's sober. Like after tea dances in the afternoon. And I'm just like, I'm amazed. It's this like this trend now where people are much more interactive with that.
Well, I've actually started with so I'm a hostel leader with Outdoor Lads, and I've actually done 2.
Do you know what? I thought you said hostage.
Hostage.
I was just like, what do you mean?
No, that's a different weekend.
Yes, that's a different weekend.
And I've actually done 2 sober hostels with Outdoor Lads, and they've both been completely full, sold out at 20 attendees, and it's fantastic because everybody, whether it's Outdoor Lads guys or whether it's leather guys, the chance to meet and socialize not around alcohol is really enjoyable, particularly for an entire weekend.
Yeah, it's almost unheard of, really.
Yes, it is.
Because when you go to Folsom and Darklands and so on, it's very alcohol driven.
Yes.
And that's kind of what you do.
Yeah.
And it's also like when you go into bars and so on, there's not always the best offering of non-alcoholic stuff.
Right.
But that's amazing.
Yeah.
Let me know next time.
Yes,
I might tag along.
Yeah.
I'm not a big walker. I might get a backache, but but it's nice to meet where it's not the main focal point.
Yes.
And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask into your T-shirt. For people watching, this T-shirt says Mr Fetish World 2025. What is that, and how does it connect to you?
So Mr Fetish World is a title that is owned by Darklands, or managed by Darklands. I believe it's owned by Mr Leather Norway 2022.
Oh.
But it's a title to represent the fetish community worldwide. It tends to be predominantly right now Europe focused. So 2025 was only the 2nd year for the title, and I ran as a contestant. There were 8 contestants in total, and then I made the final 3. And it's how are you going to represent the fetish community worldwide? I was convinced by Mr. Leather Norway 2022 to run for it. I ran for Mr. Leather London in 2024, at which Jorg was one of the judges.
Yeah.
I didn't win that contest, which, as I look back, is a bit of a good thing that we can go into a little bit later. But Jorg convinced me that I should run for MFW 2025. I missed winning. I found out this past weekend. I missed winning by 2 votes.
Ouch.
It's almost one of those things that you really don't want to know that. You know, I would rather say, okay, I missed by a long ways rather than just 2 votes.
Yeah.
But so I have been convinced, cajoled, coerced.
That doesn't sound right. Coerced.
Into running in 2026.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And taking my project from 2025, expanding on it, and showing in 2026 what I've done with it over the last year.
I know you have to present the project
Yes.
for this title. What was your project?
So my project is developing a kink and fetish inclusive healthcare program, mental and physical healthcare program. And as a prostate cancer survivor, I want to be able to show that we as fetishists and kinksters can have major health issues, still come out on the other side, and have fulfilling kink and fetish lifestyles. I had full prostate removal. So that was in April of 24, which is why I'm glad that I didn't win. Well, I hate the word, I hate to say glad that I didn't win, but it was a good thing that I didn't win Mr. London Leather, because 2 months later I was diagnosed with prostate cancer and had surgery and had to focus on that recovery rather than being a title holder.
Yeah, you would probably, like, if you had won, you would have had to step down.
Probably would have. Yes.
First runner-up would have to take over.
Yes.
Because of health issues.
Yes. Because of the prostate cancer and the surgery, I had to completely redefine basically my sex persona. When we first discussed surgery, I started looking online for information on what would my life be like? What would sex be like? What would my sex life be like? And the only thing I could find was information on guys undergoing radiation treatment. They can still have relatively fully normal sex lives. There was very little on guys that have undergone full removal, which affects a lot of things. So I actually started a YouTube channel documenting my journey, basically from the day of surgery up through, I just recorded the most recent one last week, which is I'm just 6 weeks beyond the 1-year anniversary. And that's been very helpful mentally. So I've developed the kink-inclusive healthcare project because I also want to come up with resources that we as kinksters and fetishists can have open and honest conversations with our medical healthcare providers as well as our mental healthcare providers. Because how comfortable are we with discussing kink-related health issues with our GP and explaining that, if, as an example, if you're into caning, explaining that the marks on your back are not domestic abuse, it's consensual, or having a major kink injury and discussing that with your GP rather than, oh yeah, I slipped in the tub, which tends to be the standard response.
Yeah, I think maybe it's the Danish person in me. I'm very non-filter when it comes to my doctors. It's like they can only give me the best medical help if I'm honest about stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm generalizing about the Brits. Brits talking about stuff with their doctor. They would almost rather walk into the sea.
Yes.
Where it sometimes that I definitely have taken some Briticisms on and a little bit more reserved on certain things, but in generally, like, the GP is not there to judge you; they're there to help you.
Yes.
And if they do judge you, then it's the wrong GP.
Yes.
So I fully get that. As someone who has mental health problems, it's so important to talk about these things. We see it often probably a little bit too often people get into injuries relating to fisting. So they have to go on colostomy bags and stuff like that. And I think it's also like what you're talking about, it sounds like also like demystify some of the stuff.
Yes.
For also people around you, other kink folk.
Yes.
About what that might entail. In broad strokes, what does having your prostate removed entail for your sex life now?
So
it will be on your YouTube channel. But
yes.
More in the broad strokes, and if people want more deep dive, they can go to your YouTube channel.
Yes. So basically, I like to joke because I tend to have a rather dark sense of humor.
Oh, we love that dark sense of
humor.
Yes. Keep going.
I like to joke that I went from a power top to a power bottom in 2.5 hours on an operating table in April last year.
Fabulous.
Yeah. Which is exactly what happened. My cancer was fully contained inside the prostate, which was good. But as a part of the surgery, they had to remove one of the 2 sets of erection nerves.
Okay.
So that greatly affects the ability to get an erection. That's now getting considerably better, surprisingly, even after just a year. But also the removal of the prostate. So the prostate creates the semen and all of the ejaculate and all of the fluids. Well, with the removal of that, there's nothing there. So someone once asked me, well, what's that like? And I said, well, I can have all of the fun with none of the cleanup.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah. I don't need a towel.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's and because I identified so much as a top, slightly verse, I now, for the time being, I now can't top like I used to be able to a year ago. So it's about finding different things that I enjoy and discovering that sex doesn't have to be about the money shot. Sometimes there are so many things that you can do that you may find pleasurable that don't result in the money shot. I'm working on those slowly because it's still, there's still a lot of mental stuff in my head. And I spoke about this on one of my YouTube broadcasts, where in the gay community, cock size is such a primary focus. And when you have your prostate removed, you lose some length because now there's a hole there. Mentally, for me, that was a big struggle, saying, okay, things are different now, and I'm now not looked at as more a piece of meat. I think now that I think about it, because you go to the sauna and it's like, oh, nice, but now it's like, oh, okay. So that for me is a bit of a mental struggle. How do I deal with that? And last year, July or so, there were even some times where I was sitting there going, was the surgery the right thing to do? Yes, it was, because I'm now cancer free, and touch wood, will live considerably longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a mental struggle sometimes.
Yeah, I guess because there is such a focus on length or girth or whatever. Not I'm not comparing, but I'm just like talking my own experience. I'm a grower, not a shower.
Yes.
So I get self-conscious when I'm out because I can look quite small.
Yes.
I surprise people, which is nice. But it's I have been discarded because they don't see the full potential to start with. So I could imagine, I can sympathize how that might feel. All of a sudden you're going from, I'm assuming well endowed.
Yes.
Yeah, to not so well endowed.
To not so well endowed, yeah.
Yeah.
So now I'm experimenting a bit more with chastity, partly for my own mental well-being, saying, okay, if you're locked, then it's automatically known that what you're looking for. I think the expectations are more upfront.
Yeah.
When you show up to an event locked.
Yeah. Then there's no debating.
Correct.
Really. Yeah.
Right.
That who has the key? Who do I have to ask before I play with you?
Yes.
Kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're talking about like renegotiating the need for the money shot, I did 9 years of drugs where I could not come. So now it's not so important to me.
Okay.
Because I spent 9 years not being able to fucking come. I would spend like 3 hours coming back, coming down, and then just having to have some relief.
Yeah.
But now, if they come, I'm quite happy. That is enough for me.
Yeah.
That is gratification enough. So, and kind of just like, I get the mental thinking of that. Yet again, not the same thing, but I kind of get it.
Yes. Yeah, it's the same thing, only different.
Yeah. So it's funny that your experience on that side, I'm just like, I have my own experience around that as well.
Yeah.
Of course, ejaculating and having an orgasm is great. Can I ask, do you still get an orgasm?
Yes. So it's referred to as a dry orgasm. So as I say, it's all of the fun with none of the cleanup. At first, it was a bit of a strange feeling because there's no pre-com or no natural lube. The first few times, it almost felt like it was burning because you still get the muscle contractions.
The body still knows what to do.
The body still knows what to do. It's just the signal going from the brain to the prostate saying, "Oh shit, wait a minute, something is missing here." But yeah, it's I can still have a dry orgasm. I can now it's the erections are getting better, and that's through the use of generic Cialis, as well as something called Caverject, which is an injectable.
I'm aware of it.
That was interesting. The first time I've
done it once.
Contemplated sticking a needle in my.
Yeah. It's well, I guess for people who've gone through this type of surgery, that's where it actually is quite beneficial.
Yes. So it was a little interesting to try it the first time to get over the mental struggle of sticking a needle where you shouldn't. I always said that the penis was the main spot on the body that needles didn't belong. I have been with guys that have had PAs, and it's like, okay, yeah, but not for me. But now the needle it's important, if I want to be able to top. Yeah. So I'm getting over the whole, oh my God, what am I about to do? Stick a needle in my dick.
I guess it's about practice and just kind of getting over the initial shock of that.
Yeah.
As a recovering addict, like getting a hard on can be quite difficult for me now. So I use Cialis. Not always works, depends on where my brain is.
Exactly, yes.
No one tells you that. It's like, oh, you actually have to be aroused to get a hard on with drugs.
And part of the initial post-surgery recovery, the first 6 months, was Cialis twice a week. But I didn't want to masturbate or watch porn or anything in the first couple of months after surgery. But I'm still taking the Cialis, and it's like, okay, this is not doing any good at
also,
all.
It must be a bit of a head fuck. You're taking a sex drug to not have sex.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I finally talked to the doctor because all it was doing was giving me a crippling headache the next morning. And I told my surgeon, I'm like, no, this is not working at all. So we came off that and went on to a cream that is squeezed into the urethra, which worked a bit. And then I'm now back on the Cialis a bit more regularly, and that's helping a lot. So yeah, it's all getting better.
It's very interesting. I'm very fascinated, and I think it's for something like this where people are watching and listening, it's demystifies some of that stuff.
Yes. Yeah, I hope so.
What that would entail, because in my head it's like, oh, the prostate's gone. Well, that's where the G-spot is.
Yes.
So what happens afterwards, kind of thing. So thank you for being honest and open about it, because it could be a tricky subject.
Yes. Really. And I have since my surgery, I've not been shy about telling guys about it at all, because it is who I am, and I identify as I openly identify as a fetishist, and it's important that this information is out there.
Like I now see people on the scene who openly, where it would have probably been more hidden with colostomy bags.
Yes.
And you can get something that's a little bit more appropriate for the I get a kink night where they're black instead.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it doesn't look as medical.
Yeah.
So, and I
Yeah.
think that's so cool that I could imagine someone getting that, and it is a massive thing.
Yeah.
But I've seen several people who are quite open about it online, also trying to demystify it.
Yeah.
Also, with this podcast, I demystify drug addiction.
Yes.
There is a life after chemsex, and you can enjoy your sex life, but it's different.
Yes.
Like, your sex life is different. Mine is different. I'm also quite forward with people because my brain sometimes do loop-to-loops, and then sex is not on the table. And that can go from 1 minute to another.
Yes.
And I have to be quite honest about that. I don't get erections as well as I used to. That might also be because I'm 40 now.
Give yourself 20 years and then we'll talk.
But it's one of those things. It's also like I'm a late diagnosed with ADHD.
Okay.
So my brain is going 1,000 miles an hour all the time.
Yeah.
So keeping a hard on with that, all of a sudden like ginger nuns come into my head. I was like, oh, well, that's gone now.
Yep.
That did it.
Yeah.
I think we just have to be honest about those type of things.
Yeah.
Sex is supposed to be fun and messy, and sometimes it doesn't work. And that's fine. And sometimes that can feel really embarrassing.
Yes.
But also just respect your own boundaries. I think that's important.
Yeah. And my project, I'm hoping to demystify, or show that people with colostomy bags and prostate cancer and anything else, major health issues, we can still have fulfilling sex lives. And part of the app that I've developed lists a lot of various kinks so that people can kind of understand, well, what is medical play and what is needle play, and some people that I've talked to aren't real familiar with ABDL play, or why would you be into water sports or something like that. So, I'm hoping that I can find kinksters and fetishists that are into those and record interviews with them like this and podcasts so that I can put it on my YouTube channel so that it's out there for everybody. When somebody says, well, I don't understand, I have a lot of friends that say, I don't understand puppy play. Okay, this is what it is.
I think it's also really important when we talk about the medical community, because there is a lack of knowledge when it comes to kinks.
Yes.
I had, when I was in early recovery, I got allocated a therapist, a drug counselor, and I mentioned BDSM in those sessions. And his response to that was saying, well, that might not be good for you. Which is not, I'm not saying it came from a place of concern, but now that I'm 8 years in recovery, and BDSM can be very therapeutic.
Yes.
I've even talked to other counselors where we talk about like bullying and so on. And some people who have been bullied it becomes a kink.
Yes.
Now I like being the bully sometimes because I used to be bullied horrendously.
Okay.
But also you can also take someone who used to be bullied who now has a deprecation kink.
Yeah.
But that's them taking the control.
Yeah.
That is they choose to do that. Where they didn't have that control when they were younger.
Right.
And I think that's really important knowledge for therapists and medical professionals. The amount of times I've had to explain to a doctor what PrEP is.
I just got a new GP and I've since changed again, but I had to explain to her what PrEP was. And I said, well, I get it from this particular sexual health clinic. And she said, oh, well, then I don't need to know about it. You can keep everything with them. And I said, okay, well, I also want to tell you about the medication that I'm on for my cancer recovery. And she said, well, where do you get your cancer treatment? And I said, well, everything is done at St. George's Hospital in Tooting. She said, oh, well, that's okay. We'll just keep it with them. You are my GP. You need to know what medication I'm on, because if you prescribe me something that monkeys with the medication that I'm on, or something that screws with the blood work that the cancer center takes every 3 months. You need to know that.
Mm.
And she was very, very dismissive and, oh, we'll just keep your sexual health stuff over at that clinic and we'll keep your cancer stuff over at that hospital. And, I'll just treat you for a cold.
All of that need to interact with each other.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
there is overlap of medications.
Yeah.
Like I take citalopram
Yeah.
for my anxiety.
Mhm.
If I start taking medication that might affect that,
Yeah.
that could send me into a downward spiral.
Yep.
And it might end up relapsing.
Yeah.
There's a reason I'm on citalopram, because I had so severe anxiety, I almost relapsed. So that's really important and really, really bad.
Yeah, it was frightening.
Well, that's the good thing where we have free choice of GPs, so
Yes.
you can change them.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's horrendous.
Yeah,
absolutely. Horrendous.
So part of the project is developing resources that can be presented to GPs, and not just physical health providers, but also mental health providers.
And like we have, the former winner of IML, Ralph, who's a therapist. He's also a kink therapist.
Yes.
And he does kink couples, and
yeah.
And I was just like, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
That imagine just going into a room where you can just talk about, I enjoyed dressing up as a baby and being held by my wife with a pacifier without any judgment.
Without any judgment.
And that like I've talked to bi men on Grindr apps where it's like, I'm really into Robert, but I'm afraid to say that to my girlfriend. It's like, if you can't tell your partner, who the fuck can you tell?
Exactly. Yeah.
Of course, that can be a whole, like, that's complicated, and I get it.
Yeah.
But still, it's just like, if you can't talk to your partner, why are you with them?
Yeah.
But kink can be such a, it's a weird size sometimes.
It is. Yeah.
It all depends on what you're into, of course.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it's consensual and legal, then you're fine.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's you should be able to talk to your GP about stuff.
Yeah. And because I've done Darklands 3 times now, I've developed friendships with guys from all over Europe. Yeah. And I've talked to them about the project, and I've told them, I said, no, this is not UK centric. I made it very clear in trying to refer to healthcare providers instead of GPs, because I want to develop resources for European doctors and, European healthcare providers and, American healthcare providers, because it is, everybody that I've talked to said, my God, this is so needed, because doctors around the world, they don't get specialist kink training. When they go to medical school, there's no kink 101 for doctors.
I've been asked to attend conferences with new doctors where they can ask me questions.
Yeah.
I've not managed to do it. Unfortunately, it was on the date I couldn't. But yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Get someone in who's actually doing stuff you might get asked about.
Yeah. And that's where I'm hoping to get the project. And, with my upcoming Mr. Fetish World 2026 title run.
Get to Darklands and vote.
The organizers have told me, they said, take this project that I'm doing and run with it, so that I can go back next year and say, this is what the project was in 2025. Look at how much it's grown in a year.
Oh, you need slides. You need to do a Steve Jobs.
Yes. Yeah.
This is the upgrades.
This is the upgrade. Yeah.
This is the app.
Yeah. Yeah. But it won't be Apple based, because there won't be upgrades every 20 minutes, and you have to buy a new product to get the new app.
Yeah. It needs to be free.
Yes.
Preferably when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting, and I've done volunteer work with Controlling Chemsex here in London.
Mm-hmm.
I've mentioned them many a time on this podcast, because I think it's very important to mention them.
Mm-hmm.
And they get trainee therapists, psychotherapists in, and they're really interested in this stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's about what the brain does and what we're into, the animal side of our brain.
Yeah.
And it needs to be talked about in a non-judgmental way.
Yeah.
You're not a weirdo for liking to go out in the forest and stroke a tree.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's niche. But it's not weird.
It's not weird.
What it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Something happened to you in your childhood. That's now your kink.
Exactly.
I'm into BDSM, and we can go down a whole rabbit hole
Yes.
about my childhood and some of the troubles there and how it might manifest now.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that's fine, and it's therapeutic. Like when you mentioned pop play, for a lot of people who are on the spectrum,
yes,
neurodiversity is very big in pop play.
It's huge. Yeah, because and I've talked to a lot of pups that are on the spectrum, and they said they become completely different. They're not even, a lot of them don't even consider themselves as people anymore. They are pups, and they get in that pup mindset, and for whatever period of time, they're not autistic, or they're not ADHD, or they're not whatever. They are puppies.
They're a pup.
And part of that too is when they come out of the scene, how do you, as a handler, how do you pull them out of the scene gradually enough? You don't just go in and rip off their puppy mask and say, hey, you're a human now. The aftercare. And I love being flogged, and one of my floggers is huge on aftercare, and it's just about very gradually pulling you out of that headspace. And it's the same with anything, with BDSM, with puppy play, with ABDL, anything. The being able to pull you out of the headspace is so key.
The brain isn't a fantastic thing, but you can also fuck with it if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I have been a perfect master. I've definitely pushed too far with not enough aftercare, and that was when I was still drinking.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like a master should be clear-headed.
Yes.
I'm not saying they can't enjoy a drink with a sub at their boot. Fine, but don't get so plastered you don't know what you're doing.
You've got to be able to tell. You've got to be able to read your sub, and the sub has to be able to read the master. It's a two-way street. And I see a lot of discussion around, well, I'm a sub, so it doesn't matter. No, you as the sub have to be able to know when things are getting out of hand, and you have to know when to be able to stop.
I think the worst kept secret is it's not the master that's in control, it's the sub. To be honest,
yes,
they allow you to do these things to them.
Yes,
that is purely they're consenting to you.
Yes.
They have the power.
Yeah.
They can go in and say, "Well, no, I don't want to do this now."
Yeah.
And it's such a wish, like, oh, I'm a big master. I have the power. It's like, no, you fucking don't. You don't.
And I now see a lot of development of, and I see this more in myself as well. The Dom sub, you don't have to be this meek little, oh, I'm a sub, and you can do whatever you want to. There's a dominant side to being a sub as well. Just like you can have, you can, now that I think about it, Dom sub isn't right, but Dom bottoms.
Yeah.
You can have Dom bottoms and you can have sub tops. Yeah, and I'm discovering that I'm now becoming much more of a Dom bottom.
There's nothing more fun dominating a sub to fuck you. That is so
exactly
fun.
Yes, yeah.
You're just a tool.
Well, not that I know about that, because I'm a good boy.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I would never do stuff like that.
Exactly. No, never.
My mom is not watching, but don't worry. She knows about the podcast, but she doesn't watch it. She voted for me for the awards.
Yes.
Like, vote on this link, but don't watch it.
Yeah, don't watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's this notion of just like, oh, I'm a dom, so I can't get things in my butt.
Exactly.
But, no, that's not true.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
No, and also I'm not really that much of a top, mainly because sometimes my junk just doesn't work.
Right.
And I'm quite honest about that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does, and it's great. But it's not my main focus. If I get a hard on, the first thing I think about is not necessarily that it needs to go into a hole.
Okay.
I had an ex that was like that.
Oh, God, yeah.
No, that is not my main focus. My focus is the sub, the headspace.
Yeah.
That type of stuff. If I get to a point where I'm fucking them, great.
Yeah.
If I don't, fine.
Yeah.
That's also okay. It's such an interesting subject.
Yeah.
And the brain is so interesting when it comes to sub-dom dynamics. Daddy boy, daddy son plays big thing for me, both as daddy and as son. I've definitely realized in recovery, maybe more recently, I'm leaning more towards son than daddy.
Okay.
But depends on the guy. It always
Yeah.
depends on the guy.
Yeah.
But I've also found being submissive shuts my ADHD brain off. But that's the
Okay.
headspace thing.
Yes.
Again, like a
Yeah.
puppy play,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm a sub for someone, my main focus is them. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to think.
Yeah.
And I've realized that in the last couple of years. I was like, oh.
Well, I've always identified, and when I was a pup early on, I've always identified as a service pup, whether it's sexual or non-sexual.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from 30 odd years in the hospitality industry, where your satisfaction is far more important than my satisfaction. And that holds true for virtually everything I do. You know, that's where I get off is making sure that whoever it is, whether it's in a sexual setting or a social setting, as long as everybody else is happy, I'm happy. And I've gotten admonished for that, saying, well, no, you're not taking care of yourself. But for me, I am, because it's releasing the dopamine in my brain saying, you're doing the right thing. They're happy, I'm happy. That's what it is, you know. And even back in the BC, before cancer, I guess, you know, it was still, if I don't come, it isn't that big a deal. You know, I can do that later. But as long as my mates are happy,
then you're satisfied.
Then I'm satisfied.
Yeah. And I fully get that thinking as well. I'm like, if the sub is satisfied when I've been dominant, me coming, of course the sub might be begging for it.
Yeah.
But they have to earn it.
They have to earn it, yes.
So that's the main thing, really.
Yeah.
So you are 37 years sober. Mm-hmm. What brought you to become sober? What happened 37 years ago?
This is going to sound so...
When it was back in black and white.
Yes. Yeah. This is going to sound so redneck American, and no offense to any redneck American viewers. You know, there are people in Kentucky. So yeah. A bunch of coworkers and I actually went to see the WWE back when it was the WWF.
Wow.
That wrestling.
Is very redneck.
That is very redneck.
But really hot, though.
I remember getting in the car, driving out to the event. And then I remember waking up the next day.
Right.
Yeah. There was allegedly, a very bad blizzard. This was in Michigan. There was a very bad blizzard that night. It was a Sunday night. I woke up Monday afternoon in a room in a hotel that I worked in, was living with my grandmother at the time, and called her and said, this is the situation. And she said, you need to call your parents. So I called my parents, and my dad answered the phone. And I said, hi, Dad, it's Chris. I just wanted to let you know that I'm okay. And the first thing he said to me was, are you, or are you lying to us again? And that was a steel-toed boot to the nuts. And I'm like, okay, yeah, they have seen right through the facade for years. And I broke down and I said, no, I'm not okay. And he said, okay, go home. We'll be there when we can get there after we call the police. Okay, why do you have to call the police? He said, because we had the state police out looking for you when we didn't hear from you, because we figured you were probably dead in a ditch because of the blizzard. And I was like, oh, fuck. Okay. 3 hours later, they were in Ann Arbor at Grandma's house. And that evening, I was in 2-week inpatient treatment center. That was on my mom's birthday, March 12th, 1987. So no, don't do the math, because I'm not sure it's 37 years. Might only be 36. But yeah, that was her birthday. And I realized if I didn't quit at that time, I would have been dead by the end of the year. Either an overdose or car crash or something. And facing my parents, hearing my dad say that on the phone was difficult. Coming downstairs and facing them was really, really hard. You
would almost say sobering.
It was sobering. Yeah, it was. Yeah. But yeah, here I am 30 something years later. And somehow or another, I have been through the death of my first husband, the death of my dad, divorce, a move 6,000 miles away. But I still have to remember that it's only a drink away.
Mm-hmm.
And about a year and a half ago, I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning. I had had an absolutely horrible day at work. I had been called just about every name in the book by a client. And I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning and got on my phone and started looking for an open off license. I didn't go out and find one.
No.
Primarily because I would have had to get dressed and it was February or something thing. But I woke up a couple of hours later and I'm like, what the fuck just happened? I mean, I found my first husband dead and I didn't want a drink. I watched my dad die and I didn't want a drink. I had this client call me a worthless fag and I wanted to go out and get shit-faced. I went into my boss the next day and I pulled him aside and I said, this is the situation and it needs to change because I cannot deal with clients like that. He was able to make some changes internally and made it through that. And yeah, I don't have to deal with that bitch anymore. Yeah.
Homophobic shit.
Yeah.
We don't want to deal with that.
No.
But
no.
Also, like, to point out, it's like we just don't know what might trigger it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know for me, when I feel tempted, it's when I'm tired.
Yes.
Tired is when my guard is the lowest.
Yeah.
I just did Mighty Hoopla this weekend, which is a LGBTQ plus festival. I didn't see a lot of drugs around. I saw a couple of people who were wasted, but that was about it. But came home. My friend was sleeping here in the lounge. This is a sleeping sofa, and someone wrote to me on Grindr. It's like, and he was really hot, so we were chatting back and forth, and I just said, well, my friend is here, so I can't really blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then 2 seconds later, he came through with a message, kind of going, it's like, well, can I tempt you with some coke and G?
Oh.
Didn't linger on it for very long.
No.
But my brain did go, oh, that would be really easy.
Yes.
At least it's not crystal meth.
Yeah.
And it's like you're not further away from your last use up than turning around.
Yeah.
That's where the way I hold myself accountable is talking about it.
Yes.
I'm not ashamed of saying this on the podcast because that is a part of my recovery. It's an important part of it.
Yeah.
Is to vocalize where my brain goes. And I can be fucking tempted. I still get using dreams. Yeah. And that's normally an indication I'm stressed.
Somebody once told me after, I don't know, 20 odd years sober or something, they said, well, you consider yourself recovered then. And I said, no, because the only time you're a recovered addict is when you're dead.
That's the way of looking at it, yes.
Yeah, it may be a morbid way of looking at it, but as you say, you never know what's going to trigger you. And you know, had that event happened at 2:00 in the afternoon, who knows what might have happened.
You might not have been sitting here doing this interview.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy you didn't.
Thank you. So am I.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it can happen even after 35 plus years.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a daily practice.
Yeah.
No matter what kind of practice you do, it's just you need to keep it up. Check in with yourself. Make sure you're doing the right things for the right reasons.
Yeah.
The one thing we don't have any control over, and I don't want to sound like I'm quoting a 12-step meeting, but I am. People, places, and things.
Yeah.
In this case, you didn't have control of that person.
Right.
And they made you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's you don't know what's going to happen. I've been triggered by a map of Hampstead Heath once because I did a slamming session on the Heath.
Okay. Yeah.
That took me a while to go back to the Heath again because it was so triggering.
Yeah.
So anything can really trigger you, and it's really important to know what to do in those situations. So when did the kink come into play? When did you become a kinky bastard?
My ex was into leather, and when we moved over here, I started exploring it a bit more.
Well, so it's pretty recent.
It's pretty recent, yeah. It's probably in the last 6 years or so.
Oh wow!
And then after we separated, I started exploring a bit more and getting more into, more into the puppy play. And I rather quickly learned that I'm way too old to crawl around on the floor in a fucking ball pit.
You get one of those wheels they put on pups that doesn't have any legs.
Exactly,
and
yeah.
just roll you around.
Well, I've got the tennis balls on my Zimmer frame, on the front of my Zimmer frame now.
He's going to the farm soon.
Yes. Yeah. Shady Pines Rest Home for the
elderly pups.
For the Golden Girls fans among the listeners.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, it's relatively recent. And then I was gifted the opportunity to go to Darklands 3 years ago because my sir at the time couldn't go, and went off the deep end. And
that is an introduction, that's for sure.
Yes. Yeah. I tell people that Darklands is a bit like a Chinese buffet restaurant where you can pick and choose. And it's great because you can pick and choose, and you can say, you know what, I want to go over here and try water sports. And if you don't like it, you can go away, as opposed to going to a local event that might only have 10 or 15 attendees.
And that's the theme for the night.
And that's the theme for the night. And discovering that you really are not into that, it's a hell of a lot harder to get out of that kind of situation. Whereas at Darklands, it's a lot easier. I think the thing that shocked me the most at my first Darklands was the fisting bingo.
Hosted by my friend Tish.
Yes. And I had met one of the human tombolas at at one of the leather socials here. And
for anyone listening and watching, it is exactly what you think it is.
Yes.
Exactly what I think it is.
Yeah. 4 human tombolas.
Yes.
Yeah. And at that point I was like, okay, maybe not for me right now. But yeah, Darklands was a great introduction to the entire world of kink. And that kind of developed my my flogging fetish. I'm not quite limber enough to be tied up, because you get to a certain age and your joints just don't move that way.
I'm already there, to be honest. It's like if I'm on my knees for a little bit, 5 minutes too long, and someone needs to help me get up.
Yeah, but you can try different things, and I did that the first year, and then I tried a little bit more the second year, and then I didn't experience anything this year because I was on stage the whole time.
You were too busy.
Too busy, yeah. So yeah, I kind of dove in off the deep end. There are certain kinks that I'm not into at all, and the one thing I learned at my first Darklands was there is absolutely no kink shaming, because there is a kink for everyone and everyone for a kink. And it may be that that's not your scene, and there were some things that I saw that are definitely not my scene. But the incredible thing with Darklands is that there are guys there into that particular thing. It was really liberating, and I've had a talk with my ex, and he said, that's amazing. That I can explore more.
Like, I started when I was 22, and I already had the interest at that point, and I'd explored already. So meeting someone where it's later in life is really fascinating to me, and I would never have guessed. You just seem like, you fell right into like what I was like. Oh yeah, that's fine.
Well, now I tell all my friends that I can't even spell vanilla.
The only vanilla I want is ice cream, and that's it.
And even then, that vanilla needs to be covered in chocolate sauce and sprinkles.
It gets a bit dull, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's very fascinating.
Yeah.
And Darklands is a like you say, a Chinese buffet.
Yeah.
It absolutely. You can also eat too much, though.
You can, yes.
Yes. So we're coming to the end of the podcast.
Okay.
It's been an absolute joy to talk to you.
It has been. Thank you. This is wonderful.
Last 2 questions. What is your favorite piece of kit or gear for the Americans?
And
that can be a toy, and it can also be something you're wearing.
I'm finding now that a lot of it depends on my mood. Running for Mr. Fetish World, I kind of broadened. I'm huge into leather, and that's my primary fetish. But running for Mr. Fetish World, I kind of expanded, and there are times where I find MX kit and an MX helmet and boots really fucking hot. But I would have to say, for in general, a skin tight black t-shirt and my leather waistcoat and a collar.
Classic.
Yeah.
And a nice thick collar with a lead attached to someone.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the last question, and I'm going to revert a little bit back to you coming into kink a little bit later in life.
Mm-hmm.
If you had advice to someone who's going to come into the kink scene later in life,
Mm-hmm.
what advice would you give them?
That there's absolutely no shame in any kink. Explore whatever the hell you want to. Know that everything is okay to try. If you don't like it, you don't like it, and you can move on. Don't be ashamed of any kink that you think you have. Don't be embarrassed by it. Talk to the younger guys that have been on the scene longer. Be open about it. Talk to the guys that have been on the scene for years, and don't be ashamed of what you're into.
No shame in kink.
No shame in kink at all.
And if anyone's listened or watched and they really connected with something you talked about, like your prostate and stuff like that, where can they get a hold of you?
Oh God, we're gonna have to put my YouTube channel.
I will, yeah. We'll put it at the end
in
of
the
credit.
link. Easiest thing is probably to email me on KIHalliance@proton.me, and that's for Kink-Inclusive Healthcare Alliance, which is the name of my project. There's also a private Facebook group, or I can be messaged on Facebook. Instagram @LeatherFafner. We didn't get into my pup name, which is Fafner, but yeah, Instagram @LeatherFafner, Bluesky @LeatherFafner as well.
And I'll put all these details at the end of and also in the description, so they can find you. Well, thank you very much for coming on. It's been very informative, and it's been so fun.
It has been a blast. Yeah, I was a bit nervous, but this has been fantastic.
A little bit of lube, it'll be fine.
Exactly, yeah. Lie back and think of England.
And that was this week's episode with Chris. It's been absolutely lovely to talk to him and explore what it means to have a major medical issue and what comes after that. And also just kink and experiences and what it means to come into a titles section and try to compete in that. So it's been absolutely lovely. So I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Go out and be kinky, be non-apologetic about what you're into, and go out and enjoy it. Bye.